Good morning, everyone. My name is Charlie Wu, and I'm joined by my colleague, Michael Lin, and we'll be giving you a preview of this year's TAIWANfest in Toronto. And first, I'd like to acknowledge that we're producing this event with our partners, Harbourfront Centre, Taiwanese Canadian Association of Toronto, Arts for Canadians Tomorrow Society, and Asian Canadian Special Events Association. And first, I would like to have my colleague Michael to do the land acknowledgement.
We respectfully acknowledge the past and present traditional owners of this territory and their unique role in the life of the region. TAIWANfest is committed to honoring Indigenous peoples' unique cultural and spiritual relationships to the land and waters, and their rich contribution to society. Toronto is on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. We ask that you respect the land and tradition of those who walked upon it for millennia before us. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And during the presentation today, this morning, that you will be able to ask questions and hopefully Michael will be able to answer. If not, we'll have your questions at the end and we'll try to answer your questions. And if you are looking for Mandarin or Chinese translation, there's a caption button that you can choose. However, I have to warn you, the Zoom simultaneous interpretation is not the best, but it will give you an idea of what we are speaking. The whole session will be conducted in English. And here we go. We're gonna start right now. And this year's theme is Self-Portraits of Formosa, and will take place from August 25th to 27th at the Harbourfront Centre.
Who shaped your cultural identity? Why did the Taiwanese migrate to Southeast Asia in the 16th century? Why are women so powerful only after their death? What would you put in your self-portrait? Who first declared Taiwan's independence?
Okay, thank you. So every year we do have a theme, and after many years of dialogue with Asia, this year is the first year that we are trying to create a new dialogue, and it's dialogue with the world. As many of you probably know, Taiwan was once colonized by the Dutch back in the 16th century. And so using the era of exploration as a backdrop, we thought that we could explore where Taiwan was and how Europeans and Asians got together back in those days. And also it was quite timely that the Prime Minister of Netherlands actually made an apology to their slave trade. And as we know, that in Canada, there have been different apologies that made to Indigenous people. So it is important for us as newcomers to Canada or people that's from Asia to actually take these apologies into our thinking, and then to see how that really matters to us and how that relates to our own culture and our history. So with that in mind, this is our artistic theme, and you can actually get that from our website. As we go into this year's programming, please keep that in mind. And I'd like to start with a few of our highlights performances this year. First, as we always do on the Friday night, this year will be August 25th at the concert stage at the Harbourfront Centre. We will be bringing back our TAIWANfest orchestra, and conducted by Maestro Ken Xie. And the theme is Voyage Across the Pacific. And as you always know, that this is a very popular concert for the neighborhood. So it's a great time to enjoy some of the great musicians that we have with us. And many of them actually performed with us for the past 9-10 years already. And it's almost like a yearly annual gathering for them as well. And it is also our way of connecting with local communities. And so allowing them to understand what TAIWANfest is about, and some of the Taiwanese stories and how it relates to everyone else. And this concert is also presented by Now Toronto. And this year we are also very happy to bring in Splendid Formosa by National Chinese Orchestra Taiwan, and it is a touring that they're doing in Canada, and this is probably the top Chinese orchestra group in Taiwan, and we have about 10 members of their musicians coming. And I remember one year that we did Jew percussion, and it was pretty well received, and I believe this is nothing short of great music by this group. And this is going to be in the afternoon on Saturday, August 26th, between 2:30 and 4 o'clock. Thank you. And so the next group is actually, as many probably know, that DJ music, electronic dance music, is a very popular thing in Netherlands. They're one of the best known. DJ music is Netherlands is known for some of the best DJ or electronic dance music. And we're also happy to be able to celebrate a lot of electronic dance music this year. And to join us from Taiwan is actually DJ Yuni Sapor, and she's an Amis, and she also is trying to bring her indigenous culture into her music. And she will be joined by a local Torontonian, Aiko Tomi. Aiko Tomi is not a DJ, but he's going to be performing with Yuni. And this program is called No One is an Outsider. And here's a bit of music that you can hear. Okay, so that's our DJ party, and it's going to be on Saturday night. We're going to turn Harbourfront Centre into a electronic dance music party site. The next program is belonging, and we're going to welcome home Toronto's born and raised Gina Nina, and she's coming home from Vancouver, and she will be performing with two other musicians at the stage in the park. And Roa Lee is actually Korean Canadian, and Emily Zhou is actually Chinese Canadian, and you can see them coming together to do their performance. I'm trying to get my screen into a full screen. Okay. Next, I would like to share with you our visual arts presentation. And as you know, this is self-portraits, and so we're gonna have lots of self-portraits on site to share with you. And there's 20 self-portraits from this organization in Taiwan, and so it's actually the Taiwan AIDS Society. You know, they exist to make sure that they get rid of the stigmas that AIDS has in the society, and so they allow their artists to actually use their self-portrait to share their love. So it's called Love the Voice. And if you actually understand Mandarin, the word "I" actually means love as well. So it works well with the theme called Love the Voice. So with every artist, you're actually going to be able to see and hear their story as well. And in addition to the adults, we also have many children as well. And this is a 20 portraits from self-portraits from Ziqiang Elementary School in Taiwan. And they will be there at the whole site, and it's about the innocence. And again, you're going to be able to hear the stories of each individual youngster. As you can see from the bottom left, there's a youngster. She doesn't actually see herself as human, so she has an animal in her self-portrait. So the next set of self-portraits is from a group of local artists, and some of them are Taiwanese Canadian, and we do have Zhou Tong, who's a Chinese Canadian, and they're going to be showing their work, their self-portraits, and will be I think Zhou Tong will be on site doing some live paintings as well. And we have Wang Liang from Vancouver, James Lee from Toronto, and Alicia Chen from Toronto, and Zhou Tong also from Toronto. And then we have a series of a Hope Talk program, and the Hope Talk program hopefully can bring a bit of depth to our programming for our audience, for you, and so you can see the depth of the program. And to start, I have our programming partner this year actually is Erwin Westindi, and he's actually a very well-known Dutch Canadian, and this is being Dutch in Canada, and he's going to present a talk on how is national memory constructed. Basically, because of the apology from the Prime Minister, it is an opportunity for us to actually understand how does Dutch really think about the issues of the slavery and how are they reconciling with their past, and moving forward together as a country, as a society. We also are very happy to have a very important speaker for this year, and his name is Lin Zhenyi. He's actually a former director for National Palace Museum in Taipei. And the reason that we have him as a speaker is the importance of museum in our society and how they are evolving as a museum. I think our group went to Netherlands, and we actually experienced a bit of awakening, and because what they are doing in museum is talking about whose voices are they representing. Are there different voices or there different perspectives the museum can actually present? In the past, the museum has always been presenting a set of voices. Now there's that understanding that perhaps a different perspective needs to be added to those conversations. And with National Palace Museum, it is the same thing. Everybody knows the museum by how the collection of it, and many of the treasures came from China. And how does a museum like that evolve with a society like Taiwan? And how do people have an opportunity to actually learn from it or actually evolve from it? And former director of the National Palace Museum, Mr. Lin, actually was in the position of doing that, and he's going to be here to share how this museum, this gigantic museum, one of the most important museum in the world, is dealing with the evolution of Taiwanese society. And we're also going to have a discussion on the crafts. How does Taiwanese craft relate to the culture, the people that have been on Taiwan, including the indigenous people, the migrants from China, and the newcomers today. How are these all evolving in Taiwan, and how are they being seen in the craft that people see every day? Are these crafts only a set of art, or are they something that's it's living art, something that people can actually use or have functions in our daily life as well? And we also have an interesting presentation from Dr. Yu. She's going to be talking. She's an expert on the folklore studies, and she's going to be presenting a story about Unveiling Woman, and it's a ghost tales from Taiwan. So we always wonder why do women become more powerful when they die in the Taiwanese society or in a Chinese-speaking society, and how has that even impacted the feminist movement in Taiwan? As many of you know, Taiwan already has a female president, so the women's position, women's status in Taiwan is technically one of the has reached to another milestone in Asia. However, it has its background. So to learn this from Dr. Yu will be something really interesting to hear. And we also have a very important speaker from Academia Sinica, and this is Dr. Cheng. She's going to be talking about unearthing Formosa. For many of us actually don't know that we immigrate to Canada, and some people move from Taiwan to the States or other places in the world. But in the 16th century, or even afterwards during the Japanese colonial period. There's a lot of migration of Taiwanese people into Southeast Asia, and Dr. Chung is going to share with us what she has discovered and how that has actually related to the Taiwanese history, and as well as maybe some lessons for us to learn as immigrants to Canada. And then we are also happy to have Ron Kay. He's a local architect in Toronto, and he's going to speak about the colonial context of the modern architecture and urban landscape. And I think as we know that architecture is actually one of the most obvious footprints of humanity and especially migration. And so to see it in a colonial context would be interesting to compare between Taiwan and Canada. And as I previously introduced you, DJ Uni Sapor, she has actually an interesting story. She was a student of law and worked for Taiwan's parliament, but decided to quit her political career and in pursuit of her DJ career. And that was actually inspired by her trip to New Zealand and Australia. So there's a very interesting story about her, and it also shows you the mindset of many indigenous youth in Taiwan. Okay, it's called Mi Chen Chen Po. Okay, and Chen Chen Po is one of the most legendary artists of Taiwan, and he is in the Japan. He was born in the Japanese era, and his identity is quite his journeys to discover his identity is quite interesting. And this exhibit will feature 10 pieces of his painting, but in different time slots. And we obviously don't have his original painting here, but you can actually see something that very close to his original painting, and this is through technology. This exhibition is our way of celebrate arts, technology, and in the environment, and embracing the future of art, creation, education, collection, and creation. So don't miss this exhibit. This is probably one of the my favorite to be able to bring an exhibit like that and to have an impact on the future of exhibition or future of art creation. And other exhibits that we have migration and art. So we're going to have actually 6 artists from Taiwan, and they'll be showing how migration and arts are evolving in Taiwan, and how they are today in the sense of how can you define Taiwanese arts today? It's not necessarily what you traditionally see. There's a lot of cultures being interconnected, and you can see that through these 6 artists and what they present from the work. And these 6 artists will actually be doing workshops, doing talks throughout the festival, and so you're gonna be able to hear their stories in person, up close. And then we have another exhibit coming from the National Museum of Taiwan History, and this is called Charting Formosa. And one of the most interesting when we were planning for the festival, we actually discovered stories back in those times, and one of which is the picture on the bottom right corner. This is a picture of Maju, but it was painted by a Dutch artist back in the 16th century. And because back then we don't have social media and information doesn't get passed on so fast, so the concept of Maju is a religious figure. However, the artist portrayed it into something that he's more familiar as a religion. And so this is a Western-like church, but with a Maju as the goddess in the middle. So that's how people see Taiwan and see the religion back then. So it is a way for people to learn about how do people see each other back then. And obviously we have a lot of maps that show where Taiwan was and in relations with other places in Asia, and how does the explorer back then view the European explorer view Asia at the time. And then we're also, as we had this dialogue with the Dutch, and we would like to share more stories with you about the Dutch in Canada, and there's a Dutch Canadian story that I think we could also have a way of understanding it as well. Next, as we do every year, we do have a series of books that we like to introduce, but instead of a bookstore form, these are just books that we would introduce, and there's a theme to connect them, and there's going to be books that people can actually flip out, but they're mostly in Chinese, but I just want to share with you what they are. So there are 4 books that we're introducing, and it's Penghu Moon in the Well, and The Tale of Two Mansions, and Tin Shu Nu, and I'll show you Canadian's own Margaret Atwood's Handmaid's Tale, but that's in Chinese as well. So these are the 4 books, and there's a theme, a female theme, a woman theme thread throughout the 4 books, and it's talking about the female perspective, and one of which is actually the talk that we about the ghost story, female ghost story was based on, which is this one, So Miang, and the Tale of Two Mansions is actually talking about a family, in the tea trading business, and it was actually a very well-off family, and what the women's role during that time in the families, and the one on the right, Penghu, the Penghu story is actually by Canadian, Vancouver-based Taiwanese Canadian author Li Xiu, Louise Lee, and I think she's quarter Dutch, and Penghu has a very interesting space in the Dutch era during the colonial period, because Taiwan, the Dutch, the VOC was once gonna take over Penghu, but back then, Ming Dynasty, officers from the Ming Dynasty told them to go to the island next to it, which is Taiwan, and that's where Dutch landed eventually. But her story is about women's role in growing up in Penghu, and her perspective as an immigrant all over the world. And then we have a series of films that we'd like to share with you. And first one, I'll just go right to this. First one is the one in the middle, is the hidden transcript of Academic Tao, and 曹永和曹院士的隐藏文本. This is actually a very important documentary, and if you don't want to see it during the festival, we actually are previewing online ahead of time. But this is the person who single-handedly connected the Dutch history, the Taiwanese Dutch history. So basically back then, a lot of history that to do with Dutch was actually buried in the Taiwan University library, and he single-handedly learned Dutch, learned Spanish, and then became an expert in the field, and that's how the Taiwanese history during the colonial period unsurfaced. And without him, these probably will be even more difficult to navigate. And because of him, there's a movement of rebuilding Taiwanese history, and he has many students now are in very important positions throughout Taiwan to actually take back the importance of Taiwanese history. As you probably know, during the Chiang Kai-shek era, a lot of people in Taiwan don't learn anything about Taiwan. They learn everything about China, but the importance of learning about Taiwanese history is actually quite evident. But Cao Yonghe Yuanshi is the key person. He passed away. However, his student and Dr. Chen, for whom I spoke earlier, will actually be on site for the Q&A, so you can actually hear her interacting with Cao during their time together. And there's a lot of remarkable stories about that. So I'd like to focus on this film, and there also have a few other films on archive. It's a Canadian film that we worked together with National Film Board, and we provided the Chinese subtitle to it, and it's talking about some of the stories that don't get archived, and because from the governing from the government's perspective, sometimes they're not as important, or from historians, sometimes they get left out. What are those stories, and are we one of those archived stories? So maybe learn something from that film, and you can see what are the things that people don't necessarily pay attention to. And the film Rice Boy Sleeps is done by a Korean Canadian filmmaker, and won a few awards, and actually featured in TIFF last year. And we provided Chinese subtitle to it. So if you have friends that language is a barrier, please tell them about it. The Rice Boy Sleeps would actually resonate with a lot of families, immigrant families in Canada, and maybe even some one and a half generation or second generation Canadian, because as they grow up, dealing with assimilation, dealing with cultural differences is something that people all remember so hardly. And this film would actually tell people about how we become who we are, and also the desire of looking for who we actually are as well. And so The Rice Boy Sleeps is a film that I personally like very much. So please, try your best to watch it. And the last drama that we're showing is Island Nation, Hoping. This is about, as many of you probably know, Taiwan did so well during COVID, and it didn't happen for no reason, and many of it because of Taiwan's learning lessons that learned from the SARS incident. And so this is a drama based on those incidents, and a lot of politics involved. And it's a seven episode series, but you get to watch one of them here at the TAIWANfest. And then we have lots of family activities. I know that those programming that I said earlier may be of interest to people that looking to go deeper on Taiwanese culture, or learning more about our connections. But we do have some fun activities as well. And this is a new creation that our team is working with Way's Taiwanese food. It's called Thai Dog, and it is actually inspired by a famous dish called Japa Dog in Vancouver, and it's Japa Dog is not available in Japan, but it's a creation from Vancouver. So what does Taiwanese food that we can imagine to be of an invention from Vancouver? And so we came out with this Thai Dog. So, and also the hot dog under the bun, it's in the shape of a boat, a ship, and so whatever it carries with it, it's almost like the era of exploration, and a lot of navigation through ocean. And so this is our way of presenting it, presenting a culinary specialty. So you must try that. I personally loved it very much, and I tried it. So this is something that it's new for TAIWANfest. And by the way, last year we weren't able to have the full scale of operation at the Harbourfront because of COVID. This year we're back to 100%, and all food vendors will be open. And if you see, there's a picture of there's a brown sugar bun. That's also very, very, very tasty, and is one of my favorites as well. And then we have lots of workshops. If you're really into getting your hands on and learning more about Taiwanese craft, this is a workshop that you don't want to miss. We have 6 craft artists coming, and they're going to be taking you, a journey to just learn about different kind of crafts in Taiwan. And then we have other activities such as Formosa puzzle game, self-portrait activity, and also we're going to bring some of youngsters to actually try this persimmon dye. And as you can see from the picture, the persimmon is not just a fruit, it's also something you can do with the craft. We like to make sure people learn about our relationship with nature. It's not just about making something, it's also understanding what's surrounding us and what makes the nature so interesting and so important to us. And then we have a series of community performances. And so we're going to start with What Are Friends For? And this is China Louise. She's a Taiwanese Canadian, and her name has a very interesting story to it. And so it's something that people can actually look forward to. She is quite well known in the music circuit. She has been singing for some of the big shots as vocalist, but she's coming out with her own music as well, and we look forward to having her as part of TAIWANfest. And she was also very excited to be part of the Taiwanese community. And then we have Music Beyond Language. This is a group that returns again from last year. Their Chinese name is Cha Tan Ting, and most of them are from Hong Kong. And so we always embrace our past partners, and Hong Kong was one of our past partners for dialogues. And so we like to include members of the Hong Kong community in our presentation. But also Hong Kong, was also has a colonial story, and so it fits into the theme quite well. And then we like to introduce you to Curly. Curly is going to be doing a Sensation of Deja Vu. He is an architect, a musician, and he sings everything what he creates. So he's a very interesting musician and has lots of energy and stories, and is very supportive of democracies around the world. So he's a person of great passion. And then we have, as many of you probably know, karaoke is an important culture for Asia, from Japan to everywhere. And we have a group of musicians karaoke lovers. And a round of applause is a group performance by Global Federation of Chinese Businesswomen, and they're going to be singing their tunes at the stage in the park. We're also very happy to welcome back our partner in Holding Ensemble. They're going to be doing a couple of things. They're going to be doing some walking melodies, which would bring music and animate the sites when there's nothing on stages. But at the same time, they're going to have their own performance as the finale of the festival. It's called Waves of Memory, and if you probably know, this song is actually a song that people remember most for the Dutch, Taiwanese and Dutch connection in terms of music. It's called Waves of Memory. And we have comedies too. Last year we started with comedy with Ed Hill, and Ed Hill's friends are coming back, and he had a big influence on how we are creating the space for comedy program. And this program is called Who's Joking, and It's by a group of comedians locally, and they're gonna be performing. Actually, they're gonna be performing at in the studio theater instead of the stage in the park. And for those of you that are interested to know everything and want to have a schedule, our first version of program schedule is available online now, and you can download a PDF version. And there's 3 pages for Toronto, and the ones that highlighted in beige are actually the all-day programming. And then for the rest of the programming, you can look at them individually and go through them and see what you want to participate. I also like to say that we're still looking for volunteers, and every volunteer gets a T-shirt like this. So feel free to sign up for our volunteers. And also like to take the opportunity to acknowledge our partners and our sponsors, and every one of them is very important, and so you can see them on our website as well. And I don't want to read them all, but they're all here. And that's my presentation. I don't know if there's any question, and sorry for my screen. I couldn't get it to full screen, but we'll figure it out next time. But any questions? No questions. If you don't have any more questions, then that's our preview. And this is recorded, and we will try to have it uploaded. So if you have friends that need to know a bit more about the festival, this will be a way for them to get an overview. Otherwise, everything is available on the website, and please help us share with your friends.